I am Dr. Michael, and over the next few minutes, I am going to share with you the three most important vitamins that, based on what I see with my own patients every week, may help your skin gently rejuvenate, soften the look of fine lines, and quietly support the collagen your body is still working hard to produce every single day. Most people over the age of 60 are told that wrinkles, sagging, and the slow loss of elasticity are simply an inevitable part of getting older. And while it is true that time does pass, that, in my clinical experience, is not the whole truth. The real cause, in many cases, is a quiet deficiency of essential vitamins that your skin depends on every single day to repair collagen, to build new cells, and to protect itself from the damage that slowly piles up year after year. And here is what almost nobody tells you. These three vitamins are inexpensive, they are easy to find, and they do not generate the kind of huge profits that the cosmetic industry relies on. That is exactly why, when I sit down with my patients, I find these three vitamins are simply not discussed nearly as often as they should be. The first vitamin I will reveal today has been shown in studies to be one of the most important for keeping mature skin firm and resilient, yet millions of older adults still do not consume nearly enough of it. So let us begin, as I always do in my own practice, with vitamin number 3. And I want to start not with the science, but with something I hear almost every single week from people sitting right where you are sitting. There is a small, quiet change that many people begin to notice once they cross the age of 60. At first, they hardly pay much attention to it. One morning, they look in the mirror and feel that something is just a little different. It is not necessarily a brand new wrinkle. Their face simply no longer reflects light the way it used to. It looks duller, slightly more tired, as if it had quietly lost that gentle glow that used to appear even after a simple night of rest. Over the following weeks and months, they also begin to notice that the small lines around their eyes stay visible for longer, that the skin on their neck no longer feels quite as firm as before, or that their hands begin to show the years a little more openly. Most people quietly assume this is just the natural process of getting older, but in my years of clinical practice, I have learned that this change often begins long before the first visible wrinkle ever shows up. It begins inside the skin, at the cellular level, and one of the most important pieces of that internal story is vitamin C. Interestingly, most people associate this vitamin almost exclusively with immune defense, with colds, or with the occasional glass of orange juice. What very few people realize, however, is that this same vitamin also plays a fundamental role in the health and the visible appearance of mature skin. What we are discussing is the slow, countless patients whose skin began to look noticeably healthier once their daily vitamin C intake was finally addressed in a consistent way. Why? Because this vitamin is directly involved in the formation of new collagen in the deeper layers of the skin. And collagen is precisely what gives your skin its firm internal support. Let me give you a simple, fresh example. Imagine a fresh loaf of bread, right out of the oven. When you press down lightly on the soft top with your hand, it gently springs back into shape almost instantly. Now picture that same loaf 2 days later. It still looks like bread, but when you press down on it, it stays compressed. It has lost its spring. It has lost its softness. The same kind of change happens inside your skin when collagen stores quietly decrease. The skin loses part of the internal support that used to keep it firm and flexible. That is why expression lines begin to look more visible, why the skin appears a little thinner in certain areas, and why the jawline, the cheeks, and other parts of the face slowly begin to lose their natural definition. Here is something I find genuinely interesting. Your body continues trying to manufacture fresh collagen even well past the age of 60. The problem is not that it has stopped trying. The problem is that it does not always have the right tools to do the job well. And one of those essential tools happens to be vitamin C. Without it, that process becomes far less efficient. It is a little like trying to bake a birthday cake with every ingredient except the flour. You can still mix things together, you can still put it in the oven, but the final result will never be quite the same. Producing collagen, however, is far from the only job this vitamin performs in the skin. Every single day, your skin faces constant, quiet wear and tear. You do not have to spend hours under the blazing sun for it to happen. Simply stepping outside, breathing polluted air, sleeping too little for several nights in a row, or going through a period of high emotional stress is more than enough. Each of those things leaves behind microscopic marks that, while they are not visible to the eye, quietly accumulate over the years. Your skin goes through a remarkably similar process, and vitamin C helps reduce part of that accumulated wear and tear, thanks to its well-documented antioxidant action. I am certainly not claiming it can stop the natural aging process. That would be impossible for any single nutrient. What it can do is help protect your cells so this process unfolds at a slower, gentler pace. Many of my patients also notice that over the years, their skin simply takes longer to bounce back from small everyday injuries. A minor scratch from gardening, a small burn from cooking, a bumped elbow against a door frame. A scrape that used to fade in a few days now takes weeks to look fully healed. That change happens because the body's natural ability to regenerate gradually slows with age. And once again, vitamin C appears as a very important piece because it actively participates in the body's normal tissue repair processes. There is another, quieter change that often draws a great deal of concern from my patients: the slow loss of natural radiance. Perhaps you remember photographs from 15 or 20 years ago in which your skin seemed to reflect light beautifully, even without any makeup or filters at all. Today, by contrast, many people tell me their face simply looks a little dull, as if the inner vitality has quietly faded. This is not always caused by wrinkles themselves. In many cases, it is related to slower cell renewal underneath, and to the wear and tear that has been quietly accumulating for many decades. When the body has enough vitamin C and the rest of the diet is reasonably balanced, new skin cells can develop under much better conditions, supporting skin that looks more even, more rested, and noticeably healthier overall. And let me be absolutely clear, we are not talking about erasing 20 years overnight. That simply does not exist in real life. We are talking about helping your skin make better use of the natural repair mechanisms it still has, even long after your 60th birthday. The good news is that adding more vitamin C to your daily routine is usually quite simple. It is found abundantly in fresh fruits, such as oranges, kiwis, ripe guavas, papayas, and bright red strawberries. It is also found generously in vegetables, such as red bell peppers, fresh broccoli, and many other colorful options you can easily include in any weekly shopping list. In my own practice, however, I often discover that many older adults consume noticeably fewer fruits and vegetables than they did in their 30s or 40s. Some because their appetite has naturally decreased, others because they live alone and find themselves cooking less often, and others simply because their daily diet has quietly become repetitive over the years. In these situations, and always under the thoughtful guidance of your own doctor, it may absolutely be reasonable to evaluate whether a modest supplement is necessary to comfortably meet your personal daily needs. Before we move on to vitamin number 2, please take a moment to write more collagen in the comments below if you are genuinely committed to eating more vitamin C-rich foods starting today. I personally read as many of your comments as I can, and I promise you, your quiet commitment truly does make a real difference. Now let us move on to vitamin number 2, vitamin E. If there is one single thing that almost every patient I see over the age of 60 says to me at some point, it is this: my skin just does not feel the way it used to. And they are never only talking about wrinkles. They are talking about that uncomfortable feeling of tightness and dryness that seems to appear just a few minutes after washing their face in the morning. About hands that quietly need cream several times a day because they become rough and uncomfortable again so quickly. About the skin on their arms that seems to slowly lose its softness as the months go by, and about skin that feels much thinner, much more delicate, and far more fragile than it did only a few short years ago. If you have ever felt anything like this, please know that you are, even those fine lines that were once barely noticeable begin to stand out much more than they used to. Why does this happen? Because the surface of your skin is protected by a natural barrier whose entire job is to keep it from constantly losing precious water. Let me give you a fresh example. Picture a fresh, plump grape sitting in a small bowl on your kitchen counter. Its skin is smooth, tight, and full of life. Now picture a raisin sitting beside it. Over time, the raisin lost much of its internal moisture. Its surface shrank. Its color darkened. Its texture changed completely. Obviously, our skin does not literally turn into a raisin. But the example does help explain why maintaining good internal hydration is so important for preserving a healthy, supple appearance. And this is exactly where vitamin E begins to play a very important role. This essential vitamin helps keep the delicate membranes surrounding each individual skin cell in good, healthy condition. Simply put, it helps each cell maintain its proper structure and its proper function under far more favorable conditions. That is why so many people notice that when their skin is better hydrated from within, fine lines become less noticeable and their face takes on a more rested, more comfortable appearance. Vitamin E does not replace a good topical moisturizer, but it absolutely helps from within by supporting your skin's natural ability to hold on to that precious internal moisture. Now, beyond moisture, there is another very interesting aspect of this vitamin. Many of my patients truly believe that skin aging happens only because the calendar pages keep turning. However, every single day quietly leaves a small, almost invisible mark on our skin. The dry heat of indoor air conditioning, the chill of cold winter wind, the invisible particles of urban pollution. What we are discussing is the indirect sunlight that reaches us even through a car window on an afternoon drive, even quiet nights when we did not get nearly enough quality sleep. All of these situations gradually build up silent wear that our skin cells must constantly try to repair, often without any help from us at all. Vitamin E helps protect those precious cells from this everyday damage. It is a little like applying a generous layer of protective polish to a beautiful wooden chair before leaving it out on the porch through a long summer. The chair will absolutely continue to age because time cannot be paused. What we are discussing is the slow, but that protective layer helps it preserve its appearance for far, far longer than it otherwise would. As the years go by, it is also quite common for a low-grade, almost invisible inflammation to quietly develop in different tissues throughout the body. It does not always cause obvious pain or visible redness, but over time, it can quietly contribute to the skin losing its natural radiance and can leave it with greater difficulty recovering after even very minor damage. Vitamin E plays a meaningful role here by helping maintain a calmer, more balanced environment for our skin cells. And here is something I find genuinely fascinating about vitamin E. It almost never works entirely on its own. In fact, one of the most widely studied combinations in clinical nutrition is precisely vitamin C working together with vitamin E. You could honestly say they make a true, complementary team. While vitamin C actively participates in the production of fresh collagen, vitamin E helps protect that careful, ongoing work from the everyday wear and tear that our modern lives quietly impose on us. One builds, the other helps preserve. It is a little like two craftsmen working together on the same beautiful house. One of them patiently lays each brick of the wall, while the other carefully applies a long-lasting protective sealant along the outside surface. The wall will be far more durable because of that second, equally important step. The same thing happens with your skin. There is very little benefit in stimulating collagen production if, at the same time, your skin cells remain constantly exposed to daily wear and tear without proper, consistent protection on the inside. The good news is that vitamin E is found abundantly in foods that most people can easily include in their weekly shopping. Almonds, hazelnuts, sunflower seeds, ripe avocados, high-quality extra virgin olive oil, and many dark leafy green vegetables are all genuinely wonderful, natural sources of this important vitamin. There is also one small but important detail worth remembering. Vitamin E belongs to a special group known as fat-soluble vitamins. That means your body absorbs it far more efficiently when it is gently consumed together with other healthy fats. A small handful of almonds as a quiet midday snack, a fresh lunch salad featuring creamy avocado, or a gentle drizzle of olive oil over your favorite cooked vegetables can all help your body make significantly better use of this precious nutrient. These are very small, very gentle changes that, when maintained patiently over many months, can contribute to a far more complete and supportive diet. Now, although vitamin E works hard to protect your skin cells and keep their moisture gently locked in, and although vitamin C helps your body produce fresh collagen, there is still one more vitamin we absolutely need to talk about. The one that I quietly consider, in my own years of clinical practice, to be the true star when it comes to actively stimulating the natural renewal of mature skin, a vitamin that has been studied patiently for decades because of its remarkable, well-documented ability to improve overall skin texture, to gradually soften the look of expression lines, and to promote visibly firmer-looking skin over time. And that is precisely why it holds the very top spot on our list today. Vitamin number 1 is vitamin A. We have arrived at the vitamin that, in my professional experience, represents one of the greatest discoveries of the last several decades in the ongoing effort against visible skin aging. We are talking about vitamin A, and in particular one of its best known and most thoroughly studied forms, known as retinol. For decades now, researchers and physicians around the world have studied this vitamin for one very simple reason: the skin genuinely responds to it. When a person reaches the age of 60, they often quietly assume that the wrinkles on their face have appeared simply because their skin is old, and that, beyond a few expensive creams, there is not much else that can realistically be done. But the reality, in my experience, is a little different. The skin never truly stops working, even in our later years. It simply begins to work at a much, much slower pace than it once did. Let me give you a fresh analogy. Imagine a busy household where once there were 3 adults taking care of all of the daily chores: the cleaning, the cooking, the upkeep, and the small repairs that always seemed to appear out of nowhere. Everything moved efficiently. If a problem appeared, somebody was always there to fix it almost right away. Now picture that same household many decades later, where only one person remains to take care of all of those same tasks. The cleaning takes longer. The small repairs happen far less often. The fresh coat of paint that used to appear every few years quietly gets delayed. Little by little, the home begins to show small cracks, dull patches, and quiet signs of neglect in places where there used to be only careful attention. That is, in many ways, remarkably similar to what is happening inside your skin as the years go by. Your skin cells do continue to renew themselves, but they do so at a far more leisurely pace than they did when you were younger. And that gradual slowdown has consequences that all of us eventually see when we look quietly into the mirror. The skin slowly loses its natural radiance. Its overall texture is no longer quite as smooth or as even. The pores begin to look a little more noticeable. Fine lines tend to stay visible for much longer after we wake up in the morning, and the face as a whole quietly begins to give the impression of being tired, even on those mornings when we have genuinely slept well. This is exactly where vitamin A makes such a meaningful, well-documented difference. One of its most important benefits is that it gently helps stimulate the skin's natural process of gradually replacing older surface cells with newer, fresher ones coming up from beneath. It does not magically create completely new skin out of thin air. What it genuinely does is help that natural renewal mechanism, which so often slows down over the years, continue to work much more efficiently than it otherwise might. That is, in my own clinical observation, why so many of the older adults in my practice who use retinol consistently tend to notice over the course of several patient months that their skin develops a noticeably smoother overall texture and a far more even, healthy-looking appearance. Another very important aspect of vitamin A has to do with those small, frustrating dark spots that often appear on the face, the neck, the chest, and especially the back of the hands. Some of them appear so gradually that we hardly even notice them developing at first. And then one ordinary morning, they are simply there. But in the great majority of cases, those spots are actually the quiet, delayed result of decades of accumulated sun exposure. Your skin truly does have a long memory. It remembers those long summer afternoons at the beach when you were young. The walks in bright sunshine without sunscreen. The many years spent working outdoors in a garden or on a construction site. All of that quietly leaves a mark that may not become clearly visible until many, many years later. Vitamin A actively promotes the gentle renewal of the skin's outermost layers, which can absolutely help make the overall skin tone appear more even, and can gradually, patiently reduce the visible appearance of certain spots that are commonly associated with that long-term sun exposure. But probably the single benefit that attracts the most attention from my own patients is the one related to expression lines. Every single day, without ever really realizing it, we make thousands of small facial expressions. We smile at the people we love, we frown in concentration while we read. We squint slightly when the light is just a little too bright. We look briefly surprised when the phone rings. When we are young, the skin has more than enough natural elasticity to quickly, comfortably return to its original smooth position after every single one of those small movements. Let me give you a fresh example. Picture a fresh sheet of clean white paper that gets gently folded in half just one time. When you open it back up, the crease is barely visible, and the paper quickly flattens out almost completely. Now picture the exact same piece of paper after it has been folded and unfolded 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, in roughly the same place. The crease is no longer temporary. It is now permanently visible. The fibers of the paper have been physically changed by the repeated motion. A very similar process is quietly happening on the surface of your skin, in the places where you have made the same facial expressions tens of thousands of times over the decades. What we are discussing is the slow, 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 slow. Together, those benefits can help make fine lines look far less noticeable, given consistent patient use over many months. That said, it is genuinely important to be completely clear here. Vitamin A is not magic. It absolutely does not erase 20 years of natural, normal aging in a single week. And I would encourage you to remain appropriately skeptical of anyone who ever tries to promise you anything remotely close to that in a flashy advertisement. Your skin needs real, honest time. Think of a beautiful indoor plant that has been sadly neglected for many long months. It will not become healthy and vibrant again simply because you water it once and walk away. It needs many patient weeks of consistent, loving attention before it truly begins to recover its natural beauty. The exact same thing happens with your skin. The most meaningful, lasting changes usually appear when there is steady, daily consistency. And that is precisely why retinol is one of the ingredients I personally recommend, time after time, to many of the older adults in my own clinical practice. Not because it works dramatically overnight, but because its benefits appear again and again, year after year, when it is used correctly and patiently. Vitamin A can also be obtained naturally through your daily diet. It is found in animal-based foods such as liver, eggs, and certain quality dairy products. In addition, the body can actively produce its own vitamin A from the beta-carotene found naturally in foods such as carrots, pumpkin, sweet potatoes, fresh spinach, and many other deeply colored orange and dark green vegetables. Before we wrap up, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel if you genuinely want to keep learning more about how to care for your skin and steadily improve its visible appearance, year after careful year. All right, now let us take a brief look at how you can actually begin to incorporate these 3 powerful vitamins into your daily routine in a simple, safe, and genuinely sustainable way. After hearing all of this information, many people naturally ask me the very same question. All right, but how do I really get started this week? And the honest, practical answer is far simpler than you might imagine. You do not need to buy 10 different expensive bottles of supplements. You do not need to follow a complicated, demanding new routine, and you absolutely do not need to spend large amounts of money to see meaningful results over time. The most important thing, by far, is to maintain a genuinely varied diet. Stay patient and stay consistent. And whenever necessary, please consult your own doctor to determine whether you truly have a specific deficiency that may benefit from carefully chosen supplementation. Let us begin once more with vitamin C. Ideally, you should try to obtain it primarily from fresh, whole, unprocessed foods. A fresh orange with your breakfast, a kiwi as a gentle midday snack, some ripe strawberries with plain yogurt, a slice of sweet papaya after dinner, or a colorful salad with bright red bell peppers can all easily provide significant amounts of this essential vitamin. Remember, however, that vitamin C is genuinely sensitive to high heat. That is why, whenever possible, choosing fresh fruit and certain raw, fresh vegetables helps preserve far more of its precious content than cooking them at length. If your doctor genuinely believes you would benefit from a vitamin C supplement, it is generally recommended to take it along with a meal in order to promote good, comfortable digestive tolerance. Now, let us talk for a brief moment about vitamin E, because this important vitamin actually needs healthy dietary fat to be properly absorbed inside your body. A smart, sustainable daily strategy is to gently consume it together with quality fats. A small handful of almonds added to your morning breakfast, or temporary food poisoning. What we are discussing is the slow, included in a fresh lunch salad, or a gentle drizzle of high-quality extra virgin olive oil over your favorite cooked vegetables. These are very small, very simple adjustments that benefit not only your skin in the long term, but also your cardiovascular health and your overall long-term well-being. What we are discussing is the slow, 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 and now we come at last to vitamin A. This is precisely the area where I observe the most common mistakes being made by my own patients. People hear about retinol through a friend or a popular online video, and they immediately begin using it every single night right from the very first day. What we are discussing is the slow. However, your skin genuinely needs a careful, patient adjustment period. When retinol is used topically, I generally recommend that my own patients begin with just 2 or 3 nights per week and then gradually, carefully increase the frequency only if their skin is tolerating it well. In addition, it is absolutely essential to apply proper, broad-spectrum sunscreen every single morning. Why? Because skin that is actively, healthily renewing itself can naturally become noticeably more sensitive to ultraviolet radiation, and protecting it from the sun is a genuinely vital part of the entire process. When it comes to your daily diet, vitamin A can also be obtained naturally by eating eggs, quality dairy products, vibrant fresh carrots, fresh spinach, sweet pumpkin, sweet potatoes, and many other foods that are naturally rich in beta-carotene. What genuinely matters more than anything else is having real, balanced variety in your daily nutrition, because no single vitamin ever works completely on its own. Healthy, vibrant skin depends on quality protein, healthy dietary fats, essential vitamins, important minerals, plenty of clean, hydrating water,